Minoans. They're named after a guy named King Minos, and they lived on the island of Crete. Very lively, active people, enjoyed life. They liked animals, dancing, sports, and a weird sport called bull leaping, which I don't recommend. They built temples to worship their gods and goddesses. They traded some honey, some olive oil, wine, gold, grains, and eventually the Greeks adopted many of their ideas that came from them originally. They don't know what happened to them. They don't. Maybe it was a volcano. Maybe it was a tidal wave that wiped them all out. But eventually, the Mycenaeans took over the Minoans. The Mycenaeans were the first true Greeks, and they're named after an important city called Mycenae, which we learned from Mr. Corwin in the video. Very warlike people, armed and dangerous. They mostly famous for the Trojan horse story, which kind of came from that area. After 10 years of fighting with Troy, they sent in a huge wooden horse with soldiers inside, and you guys read about that. They became a sea power by use of their shipbuilding, and eventually they did, which I already mentioned, take over the Minoans as the most powerful in that area. Their decline is a mystery as well. Some people have thought that it was a drought, maybe that they were fighting each other internally, and eventually a group called the Dorians, which we're not really going to talk about, took them over.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the State of the Class Address for September 23rd, 2016. I never know what date it is. I always feel so bad. Anyway, this week we've kind of started into ancient Greece. We started with some vocab. We started with some a map that they will have a test on next week, and you can take it anytime you want during the week, kind of Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday-ish, as long as it's during work time. And you just come up to me, and I'll give the test to you. It's very simple, kind of when you're ready, you're ready. So that's kind of the map test next week. We ended the week talking about the early civilizations of Greece, the Minoans, the Mycenaeans, and their impact on the rest of Greece going forward. So they're going to be kind of doing what's called Cornell Notes. And it's a note system developed by professors at Cornell University to help students remember stuff. So I kind of teach them how to do that so that they can use it in other classes, maybe now, maybe in high school, maybe in college later, or maybe there'll be something else later. But I've always thought that it's a really nice system to help you remember some notes or what you read, or maybe it's a lecture, or maybe anything. Could be anything in general. So that's a recap of this week. Next week, we're going to start with Greek city-states. There might be some developing of some city-states, and eventually they might have a competition. But that's in the near future, and that's a teaser for what's kind of coming up soon. We'll also get into some of the battles of that Greece is more famous for as we're moving forward. Also, this coming Friday is the end of the first 9 weeks. Typically, the first, I usually get through about 2.5 units. We get through culture, and it's probably the easiest unit to do. It's about you. It's about your culture. It's about your stuff. So it's pretty simple because you know all the answers. Latitude and longitude is basically a skill. Can you find a location on a map? It's kind of a yes or no thing. You either do it or you can't as you move about through it. So that's fairly easy. And now we've started into Greece. We've started into our civilizations, into just kind of digging deeper into life and how it compares to us now, as we're going to talk about governments, and no better time to talk about government than right before an election. So that is kind of where we're going. I will say that we pick up the pace a little bit, and things in class become a little harder. It's make you think a little bit more. Like today, we're taking notes. They're taking the main idea of stuff and chopping it down into, or they're taking notes, chopping it down to the main idea, and then spitting it kind of back out into a summary. And so there's a lot of thinking that goes on. Yesterday we're talking about, we're talking about the geography of Greece, and I had them use a jetpack, like wearing a jetpack, flying around, to create a game that would tell us about the geography of Greece. So there's a lot of thinking, there's a lot of processing that goes on, and so it tends to be a lot more difficult to do, I guess, for the lack of I don't know. It's just more harder. And so it kind of that's just how it is. It starts out easy and kind of gets harder. And I'm kind of rambling. But that's just for you to know, and to know that the first 9 weeks, pretty much the easiest. And then we start kind of diving in more. If you got any feedback for me, let me know. It's been 9 weeks in. I usually have students fill out a feedback form so that I get feedback from them on what's working, what's not working. And usually it comes down to if you do the notebook, you do the work up front, everything it takes care of itself. That's kind of what we get into. Focus on the process, and the product takes care of everything else. Hope you guys have a wonderful weekend. Do something nice for someone. Have fun, not enough to get in trouble. Do good and do right, and never lick someone else's armpit. Your own, sure, why not? But never someone else's.